Hello aviators, welcome to Aviation Education. So in this video I am starting with the part 2 of the rules of the air, and we are going to continue from the last video, which was the part 1, and we are going to complete the remaining part of this chapter today. So in the last video, we saw the radio communication failure procedures, and we are going to continue now with if there is a radio communication failure. So if ATC wants to communicate with us, they are going to send us some light signals, and all the different colors of light signals mean different things. So let's start with the first light, which is the steady green light. So if the aircraft is in flight, this light means that you are clear to land. And if the aircraft is in ground, this means that you are clear to take off. If the light is green flashes, then if aircraft is in flight, it means aircraft should return for the landing. And if it is on the ground, it means that aircraft is cleared for taxi. The light is steady red, then if aircraft is in flight, it means that give way to the other aircraft and continue circling. And if on ground, it means that you should stop. The red flashes means do not land, aerodrome is unsafe in flight. And if you are on ground, it means that taxi clear of landing area in use. So this basically means that if you have landed and you are taxiing on the runway, you should clear the runway. The white flashes means if you are in the flight, it means that land at this aerodrome and proceed to the apron. And if you are on ground, it means that return to the starting point on the aerodrome. The last light is the red pyrotechnic, and this means that notwithstanding any previous instruction and do not land for the time being. So all the previous instructions that were given to the aircraft is cancelled now, and you should hold for some time and then land whenever the green signal is shown to you. After receiving this kind of signals or visual signal lights, the aircraft has to acknowledge. So for the acknowledgement by an aircraft when in flight, and if it is daylight, then you should rock the aircraft's wing. If it is dark or the night time, then flash the landing lights or the navigation lights on and off twice. And if you are on ground and it is daylight, then moving the aircraft's aileron and rudder. And if it is dark, then flashing the landing light or navigation light on and off twice. So the next topic is VMC visibility and the distance from the cloud minima. So if any weather has to be considered the visual meteorological condition, there are two things to be seen. The first is the visibility and the second is the distance of the aircraft from a cloud. So in the first situation, at and about 10,000 feet above mean sea level, so about 10,000 feet height, and in the all the classes of the airspace, which is A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, the visibility has to be 8 kilometers or more, and the distance, the vertical distance has to be 1,000 feet, and the horizontal distance has to be 1,500 meters. Now, between the height of 3,000 feet and 10,000 feet, in all the airspace classes, the visibility has to be more than 5 kilometers, and the distance, the vertical distance has to be 1,000 feet, and the horizontal distance has to be 1,500 meters from a cloud. And below 3,000 feet height or 1,000 feet above the terrain, the visibility has to be 5 kilometers, and the if the airspace classes are A, B, C, D, E, then the vertical distance is 1,000 feet, the horizontal distance is 1,500 meters. But if the airspace class is F and G, then you just have to be clear of the cloud. So you cannot go inside the clouds, but you can navigate around it. There is no minimum distance, the vertical distance or horizontal distance required. So next we are going to learn about the different flight rules. So the first rule is the visual flight rule. So for the VFR flights shall be conducted during the period from 20 minutes before the sunrise to 20 minutes after the sunset, and the following condition has to be met. So takeoff and the landing from an aerodrome, cloud ceiling at or above 1500 feet, and ground visibility no less than 5 kilometers. Flight should be below flight level 150, below the transonic or supersonic speed, and no more than 100 nautical miles seaward from the shoreline within the controlled airspace, and the minimum height of 500 feet above the ground or water and 1000 feet above any congested area. Now next we have something called as a special VFR flight. So if you want to fly a VFR flight below the VMC weather, you have to get a permission from ATC unit, and the ground visibility should not be less than 1500 meters, and the flight should be operated by pilots holding the instrument rating, assistant flight instructor rating, or the flight instructor rating. So this was all about the visual flight rule and the special VFR flights. After that, we have the instrument flight rules. So the following rules needs to be applied. So the first is that aircraft shall be equipped with the suitable instruments and navigation equipments, and there are some minimum levels. So over the terrain or in the mountainous area at least 2000 feet above the highest obstacle located within the 8 kilometers of the aircraft, and anywhere else at least 1000 feet above the highest obstacle within 8 kilometers of the aircraft. The aircraft shall maintain air-ground communication watch and establish two-way communication if necessary, and report position as specified for the controlled flight outside the controlled airspace. After that, flights by night. So if you want to consider any flight as a night flight, the flights has to be between 30 minutes after the sunset and 30 minutes before the sunrise. So the next topic is distress and urgency signal. Distress signal from an aircraft means that imminent danger threatens and immediate assistance is requested by the aircraft. And the radiophony signal for that is SOS, and the Morse code is dot 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 dash 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 dot dot dot, and the radio call is going to be Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. After that, we have the urgency signal, and the urgency signal means that an aircraft gives notice to difficulties which compel it to land without requiring immediate assistance. And the radiophony signal is XXX, and the Morse code is dash dot dot dash dot dot dash, and dash dot dot dash. And the radio call is going to be pen 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 pen. So the difference between this distress and urgency signal is basically in distress signal you need the immediate assistance, and in urgency signal there is urgency but you don't need any immediate assistance. After that we have something called as the air defense identification zone. So in India we have six different zones: the north, south, east, west, central, and sub ADIZ southeast. So to enter any of this air defense identification zone, you have to get something called as the air defense clearance, and you have to get it before the takeoff. The only exception is whenever you are flying around the airport in 5 nautical mile radius and below the height of 1000 feet above ground level. And the validity period for this air defense clearance is minus 15 minutes to plus 45 minutes of the EOBT, which is estimated off block time. And the flying club aircraft with no ATC at the aerodrome may obtain ADC from the nearest IAF ATC center. So if your flying club does not have any ATC, you have to get the ADC from the nearest Indian Air Force ATC unit. After that, we have To understand what is interception is basically when a military aircraft intercepts any civil aircraft due to some reason, and as soon as an aircraft is intercepted, following steps should be taken. So the first is to attempt two-way communication, including the radio emergency radio frequency 1 to 1.5 megahertz and 243 megahertz. And after that you have to set your SSR transponder to 7700. Next we are going to learn some of the visual ground signals that you can find on an airport. So the first is yellow cross with red background. So this means that landing is prohibited. Second is a yellow diagonal line with red background, and that means that special precautions has to be taken while landing. The third is the T mark. So this T mark indicates the wind direction and the direction in which you can land. So you have to land parallel to the vertical line of the T. The fourth is the right arrow, and the right arrow means that a right hand circuit has to be made. Fifth is the dumbbell like sign with two vertical black lines, and that means that landing on runway only. And this dumbbell sign without the two vertical black lines means that maneuvering on the hard surface only. The L sign means that light aircrafts are landing in the area. And the cross, only one cross, which is either black or either white or yellow, means that the runway is not in use. After that, we have the sign for gliders around the airport. The orange and white flag means that area is unfit for the movement of the aircraft. And the last is a black C with yellow background, and which means that visiting pilot reports. Basically, you have to report there to the air traffic service unit. So next we are going to see some of the marshalling signals. So the first one is proceed straight ahead. The second is turn left. Third is turn right. Fourth is slow down. Fifth is stop. Sixth is the normal stop. Seventh is choke inserted. Eighth is the engine start. And the fourth is cut the engines. So the next topic is VFR and IFR flight levels. If you are flying on a VFR flight, then you have to fly at flight level 25, 35, 45 and so on. So basically at 2500 feet, 3500 feet, 4500 feet. And if you are flying the IFR flight, then you have to fly at flight level 20, 30, 40, so 2000, 3000 or 4000 feet and so on. Next, we have the vertical separation. So any two aircraft needs to have a certain amount of vertical separation, and this vertical separation is called conventional vertical separation minima, CVSM. So this is applied everywhere, and up to flight level 290, the vertical separation has to be 1000 feet in the opposite direction and 2000 feet for the flight in the same direction. And above flight level 290, the vertical separation increases to 2000 feet in the opposite direction and 4000 feet in the same direction. So you can see in the pictures, I have given both the VFR and IFR cruising altitudes with the minimas. So the next topic is the reduced vertical separation minima, RVSM. And the RVSM is applied between the flight level of 290 and flight level of 410. And here the minima is reduced from 2000 feet to 1000 feet in the opposite direction. And you can see in the picture there is a comparison of the CVSM and RVSM. So in CVSM, the vertical separation between two flights in the opposite direction is 2000 feet, and in the RVSM this reduces to the 1000 feet, and you need some special equipment and license to fly the RVSM flight.